We got a reason to burn this bitch down, 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 okay? That's why, okay? I just want to let y'all know that that's why it was peaceful, and y'all was sipping mimosas and going to tea and having lunch and shit after, making signs and painting and finger facing and all that other kind of shit. That's why. With us, boots, grind.
What is good, family, and welcome on another episode today. How are you guys doing? I hope you all are doing great. And if you're joining for the very first time, thank you so much for being here today. There is a conversation that people are having right now, and it's a conversation that one of the people who went to protest had brought up, that a lot of people feel that he was tone deaf. A white woman said that she would have loved for them to have like a bouncy house or like fun activities for kids at the protest. And so many Black people came out to say that is so tone deaf. Like, why is that something you're requesting at a field? Is that something you are requesting at a battlefield? What if anything happened to these kids? What if something was shot? What if something was thrown? Do you think they are going to be safe? These Black women calling out the white woman who had requested for a bouncy house are getting dragged by another big white influencer in defense of the woman who started the entire conversation. So basically, a white influencer is standing up for a white woman who had brought up the conversation of having a bouncy house at the protest, facing Black women for calling her out and stating how tone deaf that was. In history, we've seen so many Black kids being arrested during protests. This can be one of the reasons why Black people are talking about tone deaf that is. It has sparked a lot of conversation. Without wasting much time, let's just jump straight into it.
After attending a protest yesterday, a white woman on Threads, before you drop down in the comments and ask me, why are you bringing up race? Race is important to the context of this video. Stay focused. Let's focus in here. This white woman, after attending the protest, hopped on Threads yesterday and said that there needs to be more child-friendly activities at the protest and suggested perhaps a bouncy house. And she has been called out by several Black women about how insane and tone deaf that request is. A white activist, YouTuber, Keith Edwards, is now dragging these Black women in defense of this white woman who requested a bouncy house and child-free or child-friendly activities at protests. And this lets me know two things that I've long suspected from my observations of a lot of these protests that have been happening. One, I haven't been seeing a lot of us out there. Shout out to us. Shout out to us. And two, the energy at these protests are vastly different from the Black Lives Matter protest from 4 or 5 years ago. And it shows not just in the energy with which people are showing up in and the response to the feedback some people are getting as a result of these protests. One of my mutuals was on Threads, Evan. If you don't follow him, he's great, Black Academics. He was on Threads sharing advice for people who were attending these protests, and they were all safety measures. You know, make sure to shield your face, make sure your people know where you are, turn off of your phone. A lot of advice centered around the safety of the protesters who are showing up. Meanwhile, this Keith Edwards dude who is dragging these Black women and punching down on them for even having the audacity to critique this white woman's response, this man was at the protest live streaming it for YouTube. Face exposed. No danger of safety. No threat of safety. This is entertainment for him. A couple of years ago, I watched a documentary, and it was like interviewing a lot of older Black activists and older Black people who marched in the civil rights protests or participated in several different organizations. And something that they said will always stand out to me, that when they were going to these protests, they never let their parents know they were going because they knew their parents would fight tooth and nail to get them out of that environment. Their parents knew the risk that was involved with them being there. So to shield their parents from that pain of possibly anything happening to them. Fast forward 50, 60, 70 years, these people are bringing their children to protest, and not only bringing their children to protest, but fear their safety so little that the event is being live streamed for YouTube, and they're requesting child-friendly events at protests. These leftist house cats, not only are they never beating the allegations, a lot of y'all are unserious. My Black people, please rest. Please rest. Or maybe now is the time to show up to these protests, since clearly there's no danger. We're doing arts and crafts. We're doing bracelet making at the table over there at 11 o'clock. You know, sign making at noon. Like, what are we talking about here? There has been a woman whose post has been circulating about the protests today, the hands-off protests, and about how, it was her first one and she wishes there might have been a bouncy house or something for the kids, and she rated it 8 out of 10. There's also somebody else whose post has been floating about, she's since deleted it, but basically talking about the advice that she's been given about not taking pictures and videos at protests, and her responding back, I'm going to do this. I'm allowed to do this. I have some thoughts about that. The first thing is, if we think about the people that have been so firm in wanting to document this, document and share this protest, that's important to think about, the document and share the protest. For people that have been so insistent on being able to do that, there's a characteristic of white supremacy that is a right to comfort. It is a right to feel comfortable in any situation that you're in, regardless of what's going on, regardless of how anybody else is impacted. You want to feel comfortable in that. So when we have 2 white women that are at a protest that is about what's going wrong in this country, meaning it's affecting everyone, not just white women, and more so people of color. But white women want to have things to make that protest feel comfortable and do what they want to do. That's a right to comfort. That's a characteristic of white supremacy, which almost makes it ironic that you're out there protesting today. Beyond that, I want people to really pay attention to the state of the country that we're in right now. We are in a surveillance state. People are being kidnapped and disappeared for something they might post online, something they might have said in the office. People's social media is being checked when they come back in the country. We are being watched. We're being watched right now because a person in office has such a problem with people not liking him, people not agreeing with him, people daring to speak out against him, that he is having people removed off the street. So when we say don't document this, it is not because we don't want the word to be out there that there's protests happening. It's because we care about the safety of the people that are involved. That's what that's about. If you're protesting, if your goal or your motivation for protesting is so that you feel better about yourself as a person, stay at home. Stay at home. It's self-serving, it's self-centering, and it means that you're going to act in a way that makes you feel good, that makes you feel better. That means that you're not acting in a way that keeps other people around you safe, that you're not acting in a way that really shows that you want something to change. You just want, again, to feel better about yourself. And that is a centering and individualistic goal to have for protesting. Now that I've said all that, do what you want to do. Do what you want to do. Show up how you want to show up. Anytime I give suggestions or my thought, it is not saying do this or don't do that. You're grown. Y'all are grown. Do what you want to do. But understand that when you do what you want to do, you're likely going to receive some feedback on that. And if you don't want the feedback, 2 things. Either don't do the thing or don't share it with us.
In today's episode of The Audacity of Your Caucasity, a young lady at the nationwide march, hands off April 5th, 5 million and still counting, made a suggestion. Would you like to hear it? She suggests that the next time we have a march, that the kids have activities. A bouncy house, to be exact. Arts and crafts, playing with their toys, dressing up as their favorite superhero, while marching against tyranny. Yo, what is this? This isn't a convention. What do you think this is? Do these guys not realize that people like us have literally been unalived doing exactly this for decades? But of course, when they do it, it's an activity. Might as well be a worldwide convention. Because, see, the cops don't spray them with hose. They literally block the roads for them. That's their privilege. I just think it's hilarious that she doesn't realize this isn't supposed to be fun time. But see, that's the difference. And I hope you guys see that. If we march against fascists, we risk losing our lives. They march against fascists, not only can they bring their kids, they have the luxury of their kids being bored. Now, just so we're clear, this woman is getting roasted, rightfully so. But yeah, that just goes to show you what kind of privilege you all have. And I want to thank my Alabaster comrades who see that and are using that to help us. But just so we're clear, no, your kids cannot have a bouncy house. And no, I'm not going to babysit them while you go march. We're not going to be doing arts and crafts Fridays. Okay? But yeah, I just thought that was hilarious. A bouncy house. What in the world? Thank you to everybody who continues to fight for us. Keep going. Stay hopeful. Trust your gut and always know you're not crazy.
So the white lady that asked for a bouncy house at the next protest because, you know, she thinks that they need kid-friendly events out there, I don't think she's wrong. I think the problem is, and then some people said she's tone deaf. No, the fact is that is the tone of their protest. When they're out there, it is this nice casual event. Everybody is just chilling. They could have bouncy houses at their protests because they're not met with the same aggression. There's no military presence. There's no police shooting people down. There's not the scary feeling that someone's going to take you out just for looking any type of way. Their protests have a different tone than ours. Anytime we're out there, it's not a safe environment. They are waiting to arrest people. They are waiting to cause harm to people. Any little thing is going to be a problem when we're out there. But it's not the same for them. They're wanting bouncy houses because that's the tone. They're allowed to protest without the fear of losing their lives. And that's a glaring difference. And that's the conversation. Not that she was tone deaf or we're tone deaf. It's just two different tones. When they protest, it's one way. When we protest, it's another way. That's just the fact. And that is the absolute reason that we're in this whole situation. America treats some people one way and other people, well, Black people, indigenous people, a completely different way. Carry on.
How y'all gonna have a protest and then talk about how come there isn't a bounce house for the kids? I already told y'all this is why Black people did not go to the protest. They said a bounce house for the kids. It's a okay. That's why nothing's gonna happen because they out here playing. They had like a whole picnic on April the 5th.
So can someone answer this question for me? Are protests now supposed to be like these kid-centric or like kid-friendly spaces? So I'm asking because this woman posted on Threads that she took her kid to their first protest and that her kid got bored. And so she suggested that maybe protest organizers maybe have a bouncy house or something like that to entertain kids. And maybe it's just me, but I've been to several protests, even as a kid. And I can't imagine my mama having that kind of audacity to be like, oh yeah, let's entertain my kid while I'm here at this protest. Because that's not the purpose of the protest. You're not there to be entertained. You're not there to be, well, really happy and excited and having a good time. You're there to be fighting for equality or justice, or really there to be fighting for whatever you're there fighting for. Like, you're not there to be jumping in some bouncy house. Am I wrong? Like, has the purpose of protest just changed? Or am I missing something here?
Posted this on Threads and got some interesting feedback, so I wanted to bring it here. This woman went to one of the hands-off protests this weekend and, posted her feedback, I guess, and was like, oh, well, my kids were kind of bored. It would be nice to have a bounce house or something. She said a couple of other things, and people were like, what? A bounce house? That's crazy. Are you serious? That's so dangerous. That's like, people are dragging this woman. And I said, like, unpopular opinion, I think a bounce house is not the worst idea. I just want to clarify, like, these protests, especially the protests that we've been seeing at, with the masses of people, and what we need to see more of that consistently, constantly, if we're going to stop this authoritarian takeover, not just from Trump, but from like the entire GOP party. And these types of rallies, that's different than we're blocking traffic, which has a lot higher risk, or we're marching from one place to another, which also has like logistics, mobility, whatever. The point that is, there are different types of protests, mass demonstrations, and mobilizations. We need to be creating a lowest barrier of entry for these mass demonstrations. People need to be able to come out, stop by, show their support. The thing that needs to happen most importantly is that we're showing mass dissent, and ideally, more importantly to me, what we're for. What the world is that we want our kids to have. What the world is that we think we all deserve, not this chaotic, violent, racist, sexist nonsense. So, yeah, maybe this woman did come off a little bit privileged or not as aware as possible, but also, especially for folks who are planning these mass mobilizations, like, what can we do to actually make it accessible to way more people? I have 2 kids. My career has been built on, demonstration, mobilization, things like that. And I have a hard time figuring out when and how I can bring my kids to these demonstrations, not just because it's dangerous. I know how to manage the risks, but it's also like, how do I connect it to from their experience to what's happening right now? And for people to say, well, then don't bring your kids or wait till they're older. We don't have time. We need as many of us to be showing up as consistently as possible. So maybe don't poo-poo the bounce house idea.
Requesting the organizers of protests to include fun activities for children to partake in, such as bouncy houses, is a level of tone deaf that I'm new to. Because you see, as someone who used to use their First Amendment right to assemble a lot in their teenage years and early 20s, I fear y'all don't realize why y'all are there. And I also fear that y'all don't realize the amount of stress, the amount of worry that organizers are already under when they're organizing these demonstrations and these protests. One of the first things on your mind is you hope that everyone who attends this demonstration, protest, whatever you want to call it, makes it home alive. And they make it home without being detained or harassed by police. They're hoping that people don't endure the trauma of being hit by a rubber bullet, being tear gassed, having to clear a 6-foot concrete wall to get away from the police trying to arrest them for practicing their First Amendment right. While they're worried about their livelihoods and their lives and the livelihoods and lives of everybody who's in attendance, the last thing they're thinking about is how they can make this fun for your kid. Because let's be real, it's not even fun for the adults that are in attendance. So maybe let's be mindful and let's research the purpose of a protest before we make outlandish requests.
Adding bouncy houses to protests to make them more child-friendly sounds less child-friendly. Like, a bouncy house at a regular huge event is a nightmare, and I hate it, and there's a line, and everyone's mad, and the kids are angry. Like, adding a bouncy house to a protest, like, I'm trying to get stuff done. I'm trying to, like, make my voice heard. I'm not trying to wait in line so that my kid can whine at me about a bounce house. Like, be so for real. Like, if I'm bringing my child there, which I'm not, but if I am, like, I want my kid to understand what's happening in this moment. Like, we're not going to, like, the Harvest Festival, you know? Like, we're protesting for our rights, and, like, kids are not, like, if they're there, like, they should be aware of that. A bounce house at a protest, that's an embarrassing thing. You should delete all of your social media. You should delete all your social media, and you should sell your house for even suggesting that.
The bouncy house situation on Threads has broken containment, and I want to talk about it. Unfortunately, I am considered a Threads power user by Meta. It's embarrassing. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me catch you up. There was a woman who went to the hands-off protest yesterday with her small child, and she thought that there were not enough child-friendly activities at this protest, and one of the things that she suggested was a bouncy house. She rightfully got dragged in the comments, and people were like, yeah, that's not the point. There are other videos you can watch about how a white woman suggesting a bouncy house as a good activity for a child at a protest is not necessarily the best use of her time. But what I want to talk about is how this ties into an article that I read recently about how child-free people are ungovernable. Because I think the bouncy house situation is actually a really good use case for what the article was trying to talk about. A lot of the protests that I've been to are quite dangerous. People with small children can't risk their lives or even a night in jail because they have a kid at home. And I think the government knows this. I don't think it's any surprise that we are starting to see more and more legislation getting passed that is restricting women from having the right to choose whether they want to start a family or not. Because I really do think that the government knows that people with children are easier to control. They cannot resist as easily. They cannot organize as quickly. They can't go to a protest on a school night. You know what I mean? Even though they're trying to replace all the jobs with fucking robots, they still want to have people having children because they can't do things that go to protests. And I thought it was just so ironic that this whole situation happened during the hands-off protests, literally weeks after I read this article about how child-free people are ungovernable, because this is the perfect example of what that looks like. Unfortunately, no, I do not have an answer for parents being more politically active at protests. I do not think the answer is bouncy houses though, but I did find the through line between these two things quite interesting. And I will say that there are other ways for parents to be activists, and I think that they should still engage in those behaviors. And I think at this point we can kind of stop shaming the bouncy house woman. Like, the point has been made, and we do not want to push her further to the right because of shame.
What do you guys think about this conversation? What do you think about the white woman who brought up the idea of fun activities for kids at the protest, suggesting that they have a bouncing castle or bouncing house or whatever that thing is called in a place that feels like a battlefield? I have always had the opinion that if people are going out to protest, whether they call it peaceful or not, I have always seen it as a battlefield. Now requesting for a fun activities for kids during protest seems like, when I came across this conversation, it was very weird, because this is not only in America. Even if you're protesting in Africa, like, you're scared, your parents are scared. Some people will go out to protest without letting their parents know, because the parents know the danger that they might encounter. There, anything can happen. Anything can happen. This is you literally, these are people outside protesting against the government. There is a power in their hand. Anything can literally happen. So this woman coming online and requesting for fun activities, bouncing houses at the protest is insane. And then this creator coming at Black women who are telling this creator that is so tone deaf and so unnecessary to even ask for. Like, why do you think you have to be comfortable at a battlefield? Like, why do you think you have to be comfortable at the protest ground? What fun activities do you want to see at the protest? Like, is this supposed to be a very comfortable thing? That this people mentality is centered around comfortability, like whatever makes it comfortable for them, regardless of what is going on, regardless of the pain that people are expressing, they just want to be comfortable. And this is the reason why even now the protest is being questioned. Let me hear what you guys think about this creator that's coming up with the idea of fun activities for kids during protest. Even if there happens to be a bouncy house at the protest ground, will you leave your kids there to go have fun, knowing fully well that a lot of people, thousands of people, are outside protesting against the government and knowing that they have that power? What do you think? Let me hear what you think in the comment section. This person said, this weren't protest. They were anti-Trump rallies. These folks aren't resisting. They are attending free Woodstock. Because if it happens to be a protest, real protest, how protests are being, nobody is going to be asking for a bouncing castle. I saw another person brought up something saying maybe they don't have where to put their kids, and that is the reason why they are requesting for a bouncing house or bouncing castle. I do not think that kids should even be there. I do not think, for the safety, I do not think that they should even be there. This one said, we're in this mess is because people center themselves instead of the well-being of the whole country. Another one said, this is why we sat this out. Everything is about them and their comfort. In doing so, the focus is no longer on the cause, but on them, just like everything else. Protest and bouncy house should never be in the same sentence at all, ever. I fear the plot is not lost. It never. I love this comment. It never existed, because what is a protest and a bouncy house doing in the same sentence? I really, really love this comment. This one said, I get not having a bouncing house, but for a lot of these folks, this is their first time getting involved in any resistance. And if the barrier to entry is too high, or it seems too scary, they won't join. Or it seems like it's not comfortable enough for their kids to have a place to play, they won't join. I get that some folks can't get childcare and need to bring the kiddos. But seriously, what if a tear gas canister lands in there with the kids? This is the opposite of an escape plan. A protest ground that feels like a battlefield is where they want to put their kids in the bouncy house to be having fun. What is supposed to be fun? Fun activities and a protest. Like, it is not making any sense. Let me hear what you guys think about this conversation and what you think about the white creator literally live streaming the whole protest, not caring about people's safety, and there are other thousands of Black people online literally telling them what to do to help with their safety. But he is online streaming those people's faces and then coming online attacking Black women who are coming for the woman that is asking for fun activities at the protest. Let me hear what you think in the comment section. I will see you guys in the next one.